Hello and welcome to the Film Ireland podcast. I'm Gemma Creagh and I'm chatting with director Ross Killeen about his fabulous Damien Dempsey documentary, Love Yourself Today. So thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks, Gemma. Thanks for having me.
First, get into the documentary. It's a really kind of poignant piece celebrating live music and healing and positivity and positive thought, probably at a time when we have no music, no one knows, like it's just coming back really, and you know we all need positive thought. So it was a lovely time for it to come out, given everything. But first, I'll just go into the subject matter. Like, what drew you to this? Are you a Damien fan yourself?
No, it's kind of funny, but I was never a huge fan of Damien. You know, I was aware of his music, you know, growing up, early noughties, kind of mid noughties, and even late noughties. I would have been aware of Damo, but and liked some of the songs for sure, you know, but I'd never really, you know, gone to any of the shows. I was kind of militantly into dance music at the time, you know. And not
probably
really
the exact both opposite energy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not really kind of listening to lyrics, like, you know. So yeah, I wasn't really, I guess when I kind of look back, kind of wasn't really ready for it, I suppose, you know, or whatever. I went off traveling then and kind of got a few mini discs of various artists and mini discs at the time, and kind of opened myself up to new genres and things like that. But then, yeah, it wasn't really until kind of, you know, about 5 years ago, I was kind of going through a tough time, and someone said, "Oh, you know what? You should go and see Damien Dempsey gig, you know, and it'll be good for you. You'll feel better from it, you know." So I decided to go along, and I went with my wife, and she was pregnant, and we basically sat in Vicar Street, you know. So normally we'd be top right at the gigs, getting stuck in, but on this
I love the Irish suggestion of not go see a medical health professional.
yeah, I know.
Like there is
there's
truth in arts and that healing power, but I was like, that's the first port of call. There is the truth in that, definitely.
Yeah, no, and it's
because people will do that, but they won't be too quick to go, oh no, I don't really feel good.
You know, and it did help, you know. So I went along, and we sat there, and the gig started, and I was just like watching the crowd and kind of going, there's a lot of different types of people here, you know, from all generations, I suppose, young and old, and male, female, and then I was like, oh, God, everyone's singing every word back to him, and then he's like really passionately kind of feeding off that energy, you know. And then suddenly everyone's crying, and then suddenly I'm crying, and then, you know, everyone's singing Love Yourself Today at the end in unison, and then long after he left the stage, everyone's still singing in the gig, and it was amazing. I was just like, wow, this is something special. I get it now, you know. This is like important, what's going on in here, and I can see why people are so devoted followers of Damo, you know. And I get him. I got him there instantly, you know, and I've been to every gig since, you know what I mean? So so something happened to me that night, you know, and I kind of left something behind, you know. I needed to get all that out, all that kind of grief I was feeling or whatever, you know, and needed to kind of let that out, and it was good for me, you know. And I walked out of there feeling great, and I met a friend of mine, Ross McDonald, an old friend, Ross, and we met for a pint a few days later. And Ross, I don't know, I'm sure you're aware, is like a really talented director and photographer, and we got chatting, and he basically said, you know, what about a doc? I told him, yeah, I've been at the gig, and then he was like, yeah, no, I went. He had been last year, and he was like, well, what about a doc like with Damo and his fans, you know? And I immediately just was like, yes, that, like, I could immediately kind of see what it would be, how it would be done. This kind of half concert film, half documentary following the fans. So immediately I was like, yeah, I want in, let's do it, you know. And I thought he would direct it and that I'd produce it. I had a production company, and I thought I'd kind of produce it with the production company. I'd never done a feature doc before, you know, so I'd done a couple of shorts, but hadn't done a feature. So it was kind of, I don't know, daunting for me, you know, the idea of doing something like that. So I assumed he'd be directing and I'd be producing. So for about a year, we were back and forth. He was based in New York and I was based in Dublin. And it was like, come on, let's get it together. Let's do it. Let's get something down on paper. Let's bring it to demo. And for whatever reason, kind of never really materialized. And then eventually Ross was like, look, why don't you direct it, you know? And I was like, yeah, okay, let's do it. So I basically, at that point, I wrote down kind of a treatment of what it would be.
Just out of curiosity, actually, I'll just get into the logistics of this. So a treatment like that would be maybe a 1-2 page document that maybe you'd submit to Screen Ireland for development funding, or?
Well, this was kind of more something to bring to demo. So this was it was actually a longer doc. It was about 10 pages. And I kind of looked back on it the other day, and it's actually very close to what we made, you know, in the end, which is great. So it was about 10 pages, a few pictures, you know, kind of a breakdown of the kind of cast we were looking for, the songs we'd use, a couple of references for, you know, the kind of aesthetic and the kind of vibe we're going for, you know. So like the idea was to kind of capture what goes on in the room authentically, to really document that, to put that on a screen, you know, and try and, yeah, for the viewer, for them to really experience what a Damien Dempsey gig is like, you know. And then B was to go deep with the cast, you know, to because I spent the whole gig looking at the crowd going, what's their story, you know, what happened to her, you know, why is he crying, you know, why are those three guys arm in arm, you know, what happened, you know. So that was kind of the idea, was to try and delve deep with some of the fans to understand why the music resonates so deeply with people, you know. So I brought this to demo and kind of talked him through, and through a mutual friend managed to get it to demo himself, and managed to arrange a meeting in a cafe in Raheny, and the two of us met there. And Damo was a big guy, you know, and kind of hulking over me, you know, as I'm reading through the treatment. And you know, he didn't say a whole lot, you know, and kind of talked through the whole thing. And I was like, you're just trying to read him, wondering, did he like it at all, or did he, you know, think, who's this Egypt, you know? But then at the end, he kind of looked up and basically said, this is brilliant. I love it, you know? And he basically said at that point, we should try and make a film that helps people, you know. And that was kind of the third golden rule, I suppose, was, could this be a film that might help people with whatever it is they're going through, you know, in the same way that going to his gig kind of helped me, you know, and helps other people. So could the film do something similar, you know? So that was the genesis of it. And at that point, kind of got the green light to go ahead and do it. And it was all guns blazing then from there, you know?
Yeah, because it's wonderful. And I do think you'll definitely get some converts. And there is an almost religious experience to it as well. I think there's that kind of that group processing pain, euphoria then in those moments, and you really capture that beautifully in the visuals of the gigs themselves. Like there's a lovely energy to it, and again, like it's very powerful and kind of sad to watch now, because it was filmed in 2019 Christmas, wasn't it?
It was filmed in December 2019. So the original name for the film was Church of Demo, you know. And that's what the fans call the gigs. It's like, are we going to the Church of Demo this year, you know? And it is a spiritual thing, and it's all shot in December, and it's a kind of a time traditionally where we're, you know, reflecting on the year that's gone, and we're looking forward to the year coming, and we're with family and friends and all that kind of stuff.
So people dealing with loss or issues like that is so heightened around that time.
It's all very heightened, and you're remembering people who aren't there, and you know, it's so it's all those things. But actually removing the word church from it was quite kind of liberating in a way, because like a lot of films deal with the church side of things, I suppose, and we wanted to make something that kind of was more about modern spirituality, I suppose, you know, the nature, the music, and gratitude element of it, and the sense of community by people coming together to sing together and to support each other was you know, kind of what a church should be, I suppose. But yeah, we didn't want to kind of I know, spell it out for people. But yeah, the film is very much about modern spirituality, and hopefully that comes through when you see it, you know.
And it's beautiful as well. You pick three very, very kind of contrasting, very lovely fans through which, you know, like it's sort of we're looking at their a little snapshot of their personal arcs, their struggles, and you know, like, and their healing process as well. How did you find these? These are like a lovely eclectic mix of.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, yeah, it's like in my treatment to Damo, it was like I didn't want everyone having the kind of same story, you know. So I wanted somebody who was, if you think about it, like in a past, present, and future. So somebody who's kind of been through it and is looking back with words of wisdom, I suppose. And that was Jonathan. And then somebody who's maybe looking forward into their future and it's kind of uncertain, you know. And then somebody who's very much in the present tense, where we're filming them as they're kind of dealing with it as we're filming, if you know what I mean. So Jonathan, Nadia, and Paki were the three characters. And of course, you know, I'm looking for fans of Damien who knows them better than anyone but Damo himself. So I asked Damo, look, do you know any fans off the top of your head who might kind of fit the bill here, you know? And he immediately said Jonathan and Paki and put me in touch with them. And Jonathan was just an unbelievable character.
He's a character, definitely is the right word.
Yeah, but he's just such a, like, the three guys are just really the heroes of the film, I think. And, you know, I'm so grateful to them for trusting me to kind of, you know, put their story out there and to do it in a very raw, honest way. You know, the film Damien is all about, there's a rawness to Damo, which I think is what makes him so popular. You know, he's authentic, he's honest, and there's a rawness to him that people like, you know. And the film had to be made in his image, you know. It had to represent him. It couldn't be, yeah, it had to be all those things, basically, you know. So when I met Jonathan, when I met Paki, when I met Nadia, well, I'll tell you about how we met Nadia in a bit. But when I met the three guys, you know, it was very important that I spelled it out to them that, you know, this is what we were looking to do. We were looking to go very deep with people. We were looking for them to be really brave and honest and not to hold back on what they're putting out there, but all of their motivations were to come back to what Damo said originally, to help people, you know. Like, if Jonathan, by putting his story out there, if that could help someone, likewise Paki and Nadia, you know, they're all their motivations for getting involved were coming from a good place, you know. And it was great when I finally did finish the film and I invited them all in to watch it, you know. It was just such a amazing, a very emotional viewing, you know. Nadia and her partner came in, Jonathan and his wife came in, all separate. Damien came in, obviously, and Paki, you know, and everyone watched it. And, you know, you're always worried someone's going to be like, take that bit out. I don't want to say that. But like, no one had any changes, you know. So it was lovely, you know. And yeah, they've all kind of, we had a screening and Tuesday night there in the Lighthouse, and all the cast were there and their families and stuff, and it's just been a lovely process. Like, the whole process of making the film and meeting these people and meeting Damien and just going on that journey has just been, yeah, very healing for everyone involved, you know. So yeah.
So you actually shot it in 2019, so it's been sort of a long time cooking for a sense. But how long was it kind of in the works mentally before that? So really,
well, the meeting I had with Damien was probably like February 2019, and when he kind of gave it the green light, we decided we'd shoot. He does kind of a gig every summer in Ivy Gardens. So myself and Nari and the DOP and Louise the producer, and at that point we had Jonathan and Paki on board, and we had another character, and we kind of filmed with the three of them, just a day with the three of them, And then we went to Ivy Gardens and shot around the gig, a bit of backstage and a bit of the song. Now, small camera team, you know, but cut together a kind of a promo out of that, roughly around 12 to 15 minutes long, you know, which we then brought to Screen Ireland and showed them and said, look, this is the kind of film we want to make. Yeah, thankfully they got behind it, which was brilliant, and gave us the kind of green light to go and shoot it for real in December, you know. And at that point, then we met Nadia, you know. So I got in touch with a rehabilitation centre called Ashley House and met the people who run that. And it's a rehabilitation centre for women with addiction issues, and met them, and they loved the idea, and they were big fans of Damo, funnily enough. And they put me in touch with Nadia, and when I met Nadia and explained what we were looking to do, you know, she was straight away really interested in getting involved. Her whole life everything's been brushed under the carpet and no one's ever listened to her story, I suppose. And she really wanted to change people's perceptions of addicts, I suppose, you know, because everyone's very quick to judge and no one really stops to think about how someone becomes addicted, you know. People don't just wake up and decide, I'm going to be addicted to drugs today, you know. There's things that happen that in their lives that bring them to this place, you know. And I think her story is incredible, and like, she to me is like the real, yeah, she's the one I'm rooting for all the way. Well, I'm rooting for everyone, but like, you know, Nadia in particular is I think the just amazing story, and just such a brave woman, and I'm so happy that she went through with it, you know.
Yeah, and she's so like that as well. Like, she's fabulous to watch because she is very, very inspiring and honest.
Yeah.
And I think it isn't easy because it is a real, like, you are really judged so much for dealing with things. But I think that's the nice tone of this piece, is it is about the positivity and the healing aspect of it. It's you know, which is nice. Like, it does talk about the pain everyone has gone through, but it doesn't sort of live there. It's more about the process of getting better, which is kind of, it's nice to watch, but it certainly makes it an easy watch. Like, even though it does tackle these very heavy themes, you're kind of like, most of the film is kind of joy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I hope so. You know, I feel it's a very positive film. You know, it, like, this is the other thing about the film, like the narrative arc of the film, I wanted it to be very much like the gig. So when you go to the gig, you come in and, you know, you sing along to a few songs and you go up, but then you go down in the middle of the gig. You know, he plays this song, Chris and Stevie, and in the middle of the gig, and everyone's bawling, you know, and then he comes back up at the end with Apple of My Eye, and then the crescendo, Love Yourself Today. And like, the film, I wanted it to kind of follow that kind of path in a way. And I've been really heartened, actually. We screened it in the Barbican last night in London, which was incredible. And we've been screening it around Ireland all the week just gone. And I'm going to Nottingham tonight.
Oh, lovely.
And then another 5 cities after that around the UK. So I'm in the UK for a week, screening it every night. So I'm really interested to see what non-Damo fans and non-Irish people make of it, you know. But so far I've been really encouraged. I know loads of people who weren't fans of Damo have come to see it, and they're really, you know, they get it. That was my fear. I was like, is this film just going to be, you know, something that the fans are going to love and everyone else is going to hate, you know?
Yeah.
But thankfully it doesn't seem to be the case. People who, you know, never listened to Damo before, quite happy to sit there and enjoy the film and appreciate the film, and are trying to get tickets for his gig after watching it, you know. So
because I was going to say, it is a nice kind of, like, you'd almost have a convert in me where he wouldn't be my style of tunes. And I always wondered why these group of lads always went every Christmas, and they got really excited coming up to it. But it makes a lot more sense.
Well, now. Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's it is really special. You know, I can't it's hard to explain, and you kind of have to go. And I suppose that's kind of what I hope the film is the equivalent of going to the gig. You get that same feeling, and hopefully you get what it's all about.
Yeah, and it's stunning. But to go back into the actual process of shooting it, so you kind of got the go ahead after the Ivy Gardens gig, and then did you film all the nights? Did you film sections from all the nights?
So basically the whole month of December we were shooting. So we shot all the character pieces in the month of December. So Nadia, Packy, Jonathan, and then the gigs were like, I can't remember the exact dates. It was something like the 20th, 21st, and 22nd of December. So there were 3 nights, and we shot all 3 nights. Yeah. So there's some clever editing in there, but we shot all 3 nights, and we just made sure we covered ourselves. And basically one of the nights Packy was there, another night Jonathan was there, and another night Nadia was there, so just making sure we got the shots of our main characters, but also kind of captured how everyone else was feeling in the over the course of the gigs as well. And that we covered the songs. I kind of knew which songs we were going to focus on. Damien's music is like the lyrics. There was one stage where I was like, could we make the film without interviewing Damo at all? Could his music say everything he needs to say, but kind of felt, no, we better, obviously it was kind of made sense to bring him in as a character as well. And actually we kind of treat Damo as just another character in the film, and that's kind of how I feel sometimes at the gig. Like, he's just another person in the room. Yes, he's on stage and he's the one singing all the songs, but he's not this, exalted kind of rock star, that's above everybody. He's kind of part of it as much as everyone else is, So it made sense to kind of treat Damo in the same way, if you know what I mean. And you'll see when you watch it, he opens up about kind of what happened to him in his life and how music helped him. And, it's all about the healing process, I suppose. And there's a few subtle things in there, just in terms of like elements, like Packy is kind of fire, Jonathan is water, Nadia is the earth, and Damo's the air. And kind of when all of those things kind of combine, it's a kind of this great human spirit. And they're little, just all the small things that were on that piece of paper in the beginning, when I wrote it all out. It's all elemental. It's like, it's a spiritual film, but a modern spiritual film.
Like, actually, it's amazing to think you got that much in a month as well, because it's a very complete piece in itself. But the edit process then, so that would have been 2019, 2 months later. Very lucky timing wise, because 2 months later.
It was an intense month, and this is the thing. It's like, we're not following people over a long period of time. We're just dipping into their lives, getting a little snapshot, but going very deep with them, in that snapshot. So it was an intense month of like, filming every day for the month. But like, we had a small crew. Narian DOP was amazing. I've worked with Narian loads, and like, we really worked on the visual side of it and how we'd shoot it and letting the shots breathe, just being in the room with people and not cutting away from them as they're.
It is lovely actually to get to experience their day-to-day lives. Like, we're there with Nadia as she's cleaning, we're there, with Jonathan as he's spending time with his family, and it does feel very comfortable. But how do you build a rapport? Like, given that it's such a short time and you have to get people to be really honest, like, have you kind of had many chats with them coming up to it?
Oh yeah, like with Jonathan and Packy, like, I met the two of them in kind of probably March 2019, so from March to December I was meeting them loads and having coffees with Jonathan, going swimming with Jonathan. I was out in Packy's camp.
So it looks freezing. It looks freezing.
Yeah, well, Jonathan got me into I was inspired to do the cold water swimming. I was always a sea swimmer, kind of May to September, but never went beyond September really. But yeah, I was inspired by Jonathan to keep it going last year, and it was great, you know. So yeah, no, I see Jonathan for a swim a lot, and Nadia is actually borrowing my camper van now next weekend to go on a holiday. So yeah, so look, it's very important for me, you know, like I said, that those relationships were strong, and that they trusted me, because, you know, someone just coming in and going, I want to make a film, and, you know, I want you to tell me all this, you know, it was a big ask, you know, and something I took very seriously, you know, the responsibility, and even after the film, I want to keep hanging out and, you know, checking in, I suppose, you know, but yeah, no, the relationships were really important. But so that was the 6 months up to December. And then obviously when we went to shoot, everyone was well aware of what we were doing. We'd shot the promo in the summer, so I think that they'd all seen that. So everyone was aware of the kind of film this was, and what the point of it was, you know. So when we went to shoot in December, it was really, I don't know, I just felt we were using the time really well, you know.
And then since then is releasing it now that you're like, you know, it was something that you wanted to be in the cinemas, or was this just when it was finished?
Well, you know, always wanted it to be in the cinemas for sure. You know, like everyone who makes a film visualizes that packed cinema, or the film on the side of the bus or whatever, you know, which I'm happy to say I've experienced both. It's been brilliant, you know. So, but it was a long road to get there. Obviously, there was a small thing happened in March 2020 when we were editing, and you know, I was really worried that the film was, you know, never going to make it. You know, that you know, I was kind of looking at the footage, just going, oh my God, this footage is completely irrelevant now. You know, people in a gig, arm in arm, you know, sweating all over each other. It was like watching footage from the 1920s or something, you know. It was like it had become so dated so quickly, you know.
I would actually think the opposite. Maybe not at the very beginning, because
yeah, no,
everyone was hyped up with anxiety. But I would think now, you know, like that thing where people are longing for live performance, and people are stressed, kind of like long-term stress, and that inequity has been really highlighted through it. And I do think that's definitely, like, I mean, it deals so much with social issues that, I don't know, I kind of thought now is more relevant than it would have been back then.
Gemma, completely. Like it's kind of come full circle now, because like in March, like I said, when it first happened, I was quite worried about the film, and then there was this whole debate as to, should we keep filming through COVID? Should we catch up with our cast and find out how they're doing? And I was just like, oh, the thoughts of doing that, because I was just like, really didn't want to do it, you know, and we didn't, thankfully. And now that the film's finished and everything that everyone's been through, and the country, you know, is opening up, hopefully it will continue to open up. It feels more relevant than ever now. And thing with COVID was, no matter how well your life was going in March 2020, you know, everyone's had to stop and reflect, and everyone's kind of been through the ringer a little bit, you know. No matter how perfect you had it, you had to face some kind of hardship, I suppose. So I feel like the themes in the film are really relevant to people, and especially during COVID, people got back to nature. People kind of, you know, probably appreciate music and what it does for them more than ever. And gratitude, you know, I think a lot of people were kind of just grateful for what they had, you know, as opposed to having that FOMO that, you know, oh, I wish I had that, or I wish I had this, you know. It was more just focusing on the small things, you know, during COVID. And so the themes in the film, I think, are really relevant for the world we live in now, and I'm hopeful, that it translates into loads of bums on seats, I suppose. Loads of people going to the cinema and enjoying it. The film's coming out now on the 5th of November.
In this legendary room full of soul and sweet empathy, welcome to the sing-song of the century.
I always wanted to make people high without drinking drugs, you know. Make people forget whatever's going on in their lives.
Greetings, my friend. How are you?
Believe me, I've been at a place in my life where I never thought it was possible to even have a day clean.
All the mayhem, the ducking, the diving.
I've lost so many friends. I've been in so many close altercations with things. And I think, how am I still here, you know?
There's so much trauma out there, you know. Music can help and heal this trauma.
I worked with Mick Mahon on the edit, who was amazing, you know. I'd never done a feature doc before, as I said, but I am an editor. My background is editing. That's kind of how I started out. So I completely understand the editing process, and I'm well capable of editing together a scene or something like that, or a live performance, that kind of thing. But when it came to kind of structuring a feature doc, Mick was incredible, you know, like we worked together a lot on that, and it was like, you know, let's put that scene there, let's put that scene there, let's let Damo say that towards the end and not at the start, and, you know, just little things like that made such a huge difference. So I wanted to work with someone who'd been through that feature doc road before, because I hadn't been down that road. So got in touch with Mick and you know, told him about the idea to see if he was into it. And Mick's a huge music fan, similar to me, you know, was aware of Damo but hadn't really bought into it fully, you know. So he was intrigued by the project and got on board. But obviously through COVID again, we were working remotely, you know, and for me, editing is all about the director and the editor getting in the room and, you know, just having that quick fire shorthand ability to make decisions on the fly. And you know, working remotely was challenging, you know. So it was tricky enough, but then Mick came up to Dublin and we did get to spend some time in a room together at certain points along the journey, you know. I think during the summer of 2019 when it opened up a bit more, 2020. And then I think just around Christmas time, 2020 as well, we kind of got to picture lock then. And then 2021 was all about grading sound, doing the soundtrack.
And it's nice to have those spaces, actually, because you know it's not going to happen immediately. So then you do get those fresh eyes.
Yeah, it was a lovely process. It's relatively long, you know. But like Mick was saying, he's done other docs and has way more time to edit, you know. Like we had chunks of time that we did. Like we only really spent 16 weeks editing it, which is not a huge amount for a feature doc. But yeah, great experience with Mick. And then I did the sound design with Jim Latimer, which was brilliant. And then John Reynolds, who's Damien's producer, and he also plays the drums in the band. He did the soundtrack, and the brief to John was like, can we do all the sound, all the composition is Damien's music, but it's kind of ambient versions of his songs. So it's like just teasing his music throughout. But that was really nice when that kind of came together.
And why black and white?
Black and white was always the intention from the start. Just felt it was right for the film. Like the film is another word that keeps coming up is meditative, you know. Like the gig is meditative. When everyone's singing together, it's like a meditation. And so the film kind of wanted that to be something similar. And you know, there's long shots where you're looking at somebody, and I didn't want you to be distracted by, oh, look at the color of the curtains, or, you know, what color shirt are they wearing, you know, because when it's in black and white, you're not distracted, you know, you're kind of listening to their story a lot more, I think. And it just really, I felt really suited the overall, it's not a great word, but vibe of the film. Just the overall thing we were trying to achieve with it. It made sense to put it in black and white. And myself and Mick, when we were in the edit, we were like, oh, that scene looks really nice in color. And, you know, it kind of was like, oh, should we put it in color? Because they say when you put it in black and white, you lose 10% of the audience straight away.
Wow.
Apparently, yeah. I don't know if that's true or how they calculate that, but
I think people going to see a documentary are in, you know. I think people are in to see a documentary.
Yeah.
It's not say the same crew that would be automatically going to see like Dune or something.
Some people just won't go and see a black and white film. They'll immediately be like, oh, it's a black and white. No, I'm not going to see that, you know. Or the subtitles, no, I won't go see that. So then I think you have to be brave and trust your original kind of idea, you know. So that was it. Kind of stuck to the guns and kept it the black and white, and I'm glad we did, to be honest.
Great. Well, it looks fabulous, and yeah, hopefully that you'll get nice bums in seats now. I think it's definitely the right time for it. So we'll be hitting cinemas just before Christmas to get everyone excited for the concerts. I'd say their ticket sales people are loving you.
Yeah, well, the gig's sold out in like minutes apparently. And normally they sell out every year, and normally it takes weeks, but it took minutes this year. So obviously people are looking forward to it, getting in that room and having a good cry, and then feeling good after it, you know.
That's it. I think everyone needs it after the last year and a half.
Yeah.
But that's brilliant. Like, look, thank you so much. Hopefully you'll get plenty of bums in the seats. I'm sure you definitely will. A beautiful documentary.
I really appreciate you having me on, and it's great to chat to you.
Thanks so much. That's great.